All right, so I'll give you credit if you have an AP exam and you just are not able to be there, you're studying for it. But only those folks that I said, okay? All right, so let's talk about, does anybody have, what are you doing, Holland? Are you mowing the grass? What's happening?
I'm at a pond. I'm fishing.
You're fishing. You're multitasking.
Tommy's at the pond.
Okay.
God, when do I can do that? That'd be a buckhorn.
We cannot multitask.
We can't really multitask, but I feel like Holland's listening to me, so I'm gonna let that slide.
I have heard what you said. I'm listening.
Okay. All right, Holland. All right. So I'm trying to move things so I can see the question. All right. So chapter 5 or unit 5 for your FRQ was due today. I was able to grade like 8 of them. Did everybody turn this in?
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody not turn this in? You need to text me or email me if it's not turned in and get it to me as soon as possible so I can grade it and give you full credit. Okay. Let me pull the question up. It's gotta log me back in. Sorry, guys. All right, Justin Holland, I don't have an FRQ for you from chapter 5, buddy. Excuse me?
I said I'm going to get it.
Okay, it's late, man. Get it done.
I am.
All right. Okay, so I feel like a vast majority of you that I scored already got full credit for this. And if you missed anything, it was only 1 or 2. They kind of threw you with that metacognition, but a lot of you were able to kind of work through that. When somebody says something is meta, it really is like thinking about thinking, or it's another example I can give you. If you have seen this thing that Justin Timberlake and Jimmy Fallon do, this is a stupid example, but it's the easiest one I can come up with. Justin Timberlake is holding a cup of coffee, and Jimmy Fallon is wearing a shirt with a picture of Justin Timberlake holding a cup of coffee. And on Justin Timberlake's shirt is a picture of Jimmy Fallon holding a cup of coffee. And on his shirt is a picture, you see what I'm saying? Like it's thinking about thinking. It's like going into it even farther. And so when something's meta, you really are thinking about the thing that you're thinking about. I know that sounds ridiculous. So basically all you needed to say there was David was assessing. It's kind of like being self-aware. David was assessing his thought process and realizing that it was not working. Method of loci or loci. This is where I wish that we had Latin at Greenfield. All that is just trying to figure out the location, like thinking about where these battles took place and how you can kind of organize them to connect them because of location. You guys figured that out pretty well. Deep processing is very similar to things like semantic encoding. The more we process about it, or the more intricate the processing, it's not just superficial, right? Like it's not just going over a flashcard one time and not really caring about the material. The more meaningful he made it for him, the more likely he was going to remember it. For rehearsal, you guys did really well with that. You guys could have brought up like Ebbinghaus, right? Like that learning and forgetting curve that we recognize that the more we repeat information, the better you are at remembering it, that you really cannot just keep it in your short-term memory. You want to shift it from your short-term to your long-term memory. Elaboration, excuse me, it really is just exactly how the word is defined. It's making it more detailed, useful, again, that semantic encoding, making it more important to you so that you care about it. A couple of you guys missed the chunking point because you said he was trying to chunk it together and it wasn't working for him. While initially that's true, you probably needed to say something like chunking is the process of grouping things together that belong together. And then he had to reassess how he was chunking it and chunk it in a way that made more sense to him, that was more logical, that allowed for more encoding or more ability to retrieve it at a later time, okay? And then the last part was on your mental set. This is that example that we've talked about many times. If you reach into a bag of French fries and you're expecting Burger King fries and McDonald's fries come out, you have an expectation already in your head of what it's going to taste like and look like, right? If you think something is a Sprite and you go to take a drink out of it, it takes you a second to figure out that it's not actually Sprite, it's something else. Okay, it's Coke or it's Dr. Pepper. When you're a little kid, your mental set is full of things like animals and insects. Those are the things that you find fascinating, and dinosaurs. So when you look at the clouds, you see those things. Whereas when your parents look at the clouds, they see things that are more on an adult level. So like, I don't know, bills, I don't know. And so your mental set impacts how you see something, okay? Any questions about that question? What is the chapter that you guys feel the least comfortable with? What's the section or the material or whatever that you guys are really worried about?
The eyeballs.
The what?
The eyeballs.
The eyeballs. Okay. Anybody else?
Mine's like the independent dependent one.
Okay. So the more examples you can think of that, the better, Radhika. And you might just want to Google, and I know that sounds crazy, but Google examples of independent and dependent variable and think of as many possible scenarios as you can, so that if you get a question like that on the test, and don't forget, when you have a question on the test that asks about independent and dependent variable, first of all, it's an experiment. You know it's an experiment. If you're just asked a series of questions and you're giving responses, that's the survey. So when it's an experiment, we'll have that independent and dependent variable. The dependent variable is the outcome, right? It's what the respondent or the person in the experiment is choosing to do or not do. So like an example of, the drug trials that we've talked about in class. If somebody gets the placebo or the real drug, do they get better or do they not get better? And sometimes the placebo folks get better too because they think they're getting better. So that the dependent variable is the outcome. It's like what happens with the experiment. That's the easiest way for me to remember it. And the independent variable is the thing you tweak, like the thing that you get or you don't get, all right, that the experimenter gives you or doesn't give you. As far as eyeballs, what about the eyeball? Is it like the part where it goes to the auditory nerve, or is it the parts of the eyeball, or what's going on there, Alvarez?
It's the parts of the eyeball.
Okay, so let me try to do this off the top of my head. Don't forget, what does the pupil do?
Light.
Y'all help him chime in because I want to know that you all know this too. What's the pupil do, guys?
It lets light in.
Okay, so it constricts or what? Or dilates. What does constrict means? Is get big or small?
Smaller.
Small, good, yep. Constricts means, think of like a boa constrictor, right? That's getting really like squeezing the animal smaller and smaller and tighter. So the same thing is true here. Like the pupil's gonna constrict and get smaller. And usually you're in a situation where it's really bright because there's so much light coming in, right? So your pupil's getting smaller because it only needs a little bit to be able to see. If you're in a dark room, your pupil gets really big, it dilates. And so when it dilates, it lets what? Lets more light in because you gotta have more light to be able to see. What does the iris do? Does the iris constrict and dilate too?
I have no idea.
Yes.
It does actually. And don't forget, it can change colors with what? With motion. Remember I told y'all when I'm really mad, I turn like bright green like the Hulk? Like I'm totally serious. Like my eyes, I have green eyes that are like, it very much depends on what I'm wearing. They kind of look different colors. But when I get really angry, Jeff's always like, oh, because they get really green, like highlighter green. It's kind of wild. What else about the eye? What about the retina? What's the retina's job?
That's what the light shines on.
It's what the light shines on. And what lives near the retina or on the retina? Do you guys remember?
Receptor cells.
The what?
Receptor cells.
Okay,
Like
yep.
and rods.
The rods and the cones. Okay, which ones are colors and which ones are black and white?
Cones are color.
Cones are colors because the C, right? C, cones, colors. Rods are the black and white, and they also detect better at twilight, okay? So rods, cones, we talked about the retina. What is at the very back of the eyeball?
Optical nerve.
The optical nerve. And we have that blind spot, right? Because at the very back of the eyeball, there's no connection there necessarily. There's just like a spot where no more information is received until it gets sent to the optic nerve. And so because of that, because there's no receptor cells there, it really is truly a blind spot for us. This is that spot where you're told when you're doing driver's ed, you have to turn around. You can't just glance out of the corner of your eye, because that car might actually be in your blind spot where you are physically, not just like mentally, but physically not able to see it. All right, then it gets sent to the auditory nerve where those bipolar cells are going to react and fire like a chain, just like we talked about, right? So that excitatory impulse fires, and it's like the toilet flushing or the gunfire, and it's that all or nothing response where that depolarization process happens, okay? And it gets sent to the auditory nerve. Any other questions about the eye or anything that I missed? I feel like I missed something, but I can't think of what it is. Was that helpful, Alvarez?
Yes.
Okay. For some reason, I feel like the parts of the brain and the parts of the eye, if you guys run into trouble, you'll be able to kind of look that up fairly quickly. The questions that I'm a little bit more worried about are the ones that you can interpret a couple different ways. Do you know what I mean? Where it seems like there's more of a gray area. I think it's really, really, really important if you don't understand statistical significance, the correlation coefficients, so that 1, -1, and 0, positive relationship, negative relationship. If you don't understand like mean, mode, and median, and how to interpret a research study, I would venture to guess that there's probably, one of your questions is probably going to be a research study where you interpret like the graph or interpret the findings. And you're very careful about not making illusory correlations or seeing connections that are there that are not there. If you get the whole answer right, but you say something like, this causes this, it's wrong. I need you to hear that. Please don't say this is a cause-effect kind of a situation, because we can't say that. If you're asked a question like that, you need to say there's a possible relationship. And notice I said possible relationship. Even if it's a -1 or +1, where there's a clear relationship, we want to be careful about getting just a snapshot of information and making a judgment on what we can, determine with the findings there. Does that make sense to everybody? Your Jeopardies are all on there. Okay, this is the other question I had for you guys, and then I'm going to set you free. This is not a long class. Do you want me to open up the multiple choice, the MCQs? I won't assign them, but you're welcome to take some of those if you want to go back over and review. If you've already done the Jeopardies and you feel good about it, but you kind of feel like you want to go back over it. Would it be helpful if I open up the MCQs? I'm seeing some no's and some yeses. I'm just going to open them up. You don't have to do them. I don't care. I mean, I care, but they're not for an assignment. Whatever. If you want to go back through them, I encourage you to do that. What do we know about the testing, retesting effect? Y'all, this is a psychology question.
The more you retest yourself, you indulge the information into your skull.
You indulge the information into your skull. I like how you said that, Trey. Yes. The more you test and retest, the more likely that it's like super glue, y'all. The more you learn the information. I don't think I was as good of a teacher the first year I taught this class, but this is the 6th year I've taught this class. And so I feel like you ask me a question, I feel like I don't have to look at my notes. I feel like for the most part, I can actually answer the question. And that is because I have been tested and retested over 6 years. Same thing is true with y'all. The more you practice this, the more test questions you answer, the better you're going to be at this. Okay. So I'll go through right now actually and open up those MCQs. Holland, I need your essay ASAP, please. And everybody else, thank you for turning that in. Unit 6 is due when?
Wednesday.
Wednesday by 11 o'clock.
11.
Okay. And then Unit 7 will be Friday. And then we won't see each other again until August. Makes me sad. Juniors, I'll see y'all this summer.
Never.
I'll see you at graduation. Stop.
We're still doing that? The summer thing?
Yes. I'm hoping we can do it face-to-face, particularly because we're a smaller group. There's
Nice.
no more than 8 to 10 kids in there. We can just kind of spread out. Pretty good. You know what I mean?
True.
But if we can't do it in June for some reason, like if the governor still has different expectations, then we'll do it via Zoom and just get it done.
Okay.
Yeah. I want you guys to have
I gotta sign up.
You do have to sign up, Alvarez, and I don't think you're signed up either, Holland or Sebas. Sally, are you signed up? Sally can't see.
Yes.
Signed up, right?
Huh? What?
Am I signed up?
I think so. I'll look in a minute, Rika. I'll text you if you're not.
Is it free?
It is free. Of course it's free. Yes, of course it's
Oh,
free. I'm not going to
nice.
charge you. But it's very
Let's
important.
go.
It's not that hard, but it actually will really help you to get rolling. There's a method to my madness. It's going to help that when you come back August 20th or whatever day we come back to school, you will feel more prepared for that college application process. It won't feel nearly as overwhelming. Okay?
Ms.
We're
Brown,
right.
Yes, Brenner.
when are the results for the SGA elections going to be announced? Is that tomorrow? Or?
So what a lot of you are in running for this, so let me answer that really fast. So what happens is this is a Google form where it automatically populates all of the responses. So like as of 7:45 this morning, Randall Mendoza and I were texting back and forth about this. We have a ton of kids have already voted. Like I think it's like 80 out of the 110. So the vast majority of people have already voted. And so we're trying to get the last few stragglers, but it's over at 11:59 p.m. tonight. And so I should be able to, like barring any like massive technology computer issues, because we can see exactly who voted and who didn't. And it just spits it out into a report for us, which is very nice and convenient. Barring any technology issues, we should be able to announce it tomorrow morning. And I'll send an email out to everybody. Do you prefer a different way other than an email? Like if
No,
you win
fine
or didn't
with me.
win, would you want a text?
Email's fine with me. I don't care.
You don't care? Radhika, what did you say?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, that's all I got. Anybody have anything else? All right, y'all be good. Study for not just my exam, but all the exams. Do your best. You have a really good shot at threes on all your exams this year based upon the format. So study,
Wait,
study,
we
study.
just needed 3, like 3 out of 7.
3 out of, no, you need so you have to get a 3, 4, or 5. Don't think about those points.
Oh,
Don't think about that.
All right.
Don't be like, well, I got 3 out of 7 of the points as far as I can tell. Because here's the thing, if the whole entire country really struggles with one of those points, they might throw it out. So maybe it's 3 out of 6 instead of 3 out of 7. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't really know. The nice thing is I'll be able to see, and I don't think I said this to you guys yet, I'll be able to get your results back fairly quickly. Like I feel like by the end of May. And if I read through your essay question and feel like you deserve a 3 or higher, and there was some sort of issue that prevented you from doing better on that exam, then we can appeal. Like you and I will send a letter on your behalf.
We're taking them to court.
Not a court appeal, not quite like that, but we'll appeal to the College Board. I can't promise it will do anything, but in years past, that's not necessary. They've not been as open about that process as they are this year. Let's say you have a computer issue and it kicks you out, but then you get back in or something like that, you know, like, and you just run out of time, or I don't know, something happens. We'll figure that out. Okay. We'll get it straight. So I'm hoping that everybody can get credit. All right. But if we get your scores back and we realize that you could have done better and something happened, we have an option. Okay. All right. Y'all be good. Go study.
Bye.
Bye.